What's your that was fun, but let's not do it again story? When I was about maybe 9-10 I convinced my younger cousin to slide down the stairs with me in a cardboard box. It was one of the bigger ones so we were able to both fit in comfortably. We put pillows inside and laid down head first. As we pushed off with our feet the first few steps were smooth, however we hit one step and well, started tumbling down stuck inside the box. Stroke. Took a U-Haul and loaded it with a picnic table and sectional couch with 20 close buddies to drive 20 minutes away to a sweet strip club. It ended up being an hour and a half away. We were not even out of town and we needed more beer. Our eyes were burning because we all were smokers. But we had not ventilation. I thought if we took turns standing to hold the door slightly open to let in fresh air, we would be good. Driver hit a huge bump just before a stoplight, and the door flew open. 3 cars behind us just saw a bunch of dudes playing cards and drinking in the back of a U-Haul scrambling to get the door shut. Surprised we never got pulled over. Great memory. But never again. One time I made Kraft mac and cheese with soy milk instead of regular because we were out. It came out really sweet. I called it macaroni and cheesecake and said that it wasn't bad. But I'd never do it again. You answered a question I've had for a while but never thought to ask. I made the same mistake 10 years ago. Awful. Just awful. If you have no milk just put in 150% margarine butter. Lessons learned as a poor college kid, terrible grocery shopper, bad cook. Going horseback riding up a mountain in Wales. Steep as hell. Horses kept losing their footing. I wanted to get off the horse but it was so steep that I didn't think I could walk back down. At the top was Offa's Dyke Path. Down one side of the mountain was England. The other side was Wales. Cool views and everything. But I knew I had to go back down. It was honestly terrifying. Cave exploring. In college, a forestry major brought 5 of us out to a remote cave. For starters, you go through a gauntlet of bats just to get in. Inside is a chamber of horrors if something was to go wrong. Choke points that you can barely squeeze through. Enormous rooms. Ledges with drop-offs that look like infinity below you because your light can't see any bottom. It really hit me afterward how dangerous that was. You couldn't think of a worse place to get injured. And injuries are waiting at every turn. Pooping after major surgery where they cut through my abdominal wall. Felt great to get 3 days worth of poop out. Almost split myself in half. But that post-poop feeling x1000. Saw a Facebook viral post stating that every day someone in the world unknowingly takes the biggest shit. That may have been you on that day. This falls to all of the impacted people out there that haven't shit in days. Had a guy in the hospital once that finally was able to shit. It was literally a football. He looked like he had given birth. He just closed his eyes and fell asleep instantly. All I could think was, that'll do, pig. That'll do. Apostrophe. Took acid at a rave. Didn't know it was acid. Starred at Dada Life while drooling. Fell asleep with my eyes open. Had some fabulous nachos. Watched my friend cheat on her BF. Someone did one of those finger light performances for me while I wore these funky glasses that made the lights look like fireworks. Cried thinking of Disney. Lost my glasses and BlackBerry. Bought a half-hood panda hat. Received so many gifts from rolled out blur people in the crowd. Watched a banana suit by surf the crowd. And then I ate a bag of donuts. RIP. I have so many. But the first that came to mind was this one. My college boyfriend drove a crotch rocket occasionally. So of course he thought he was a master motorcycle rider. Rolling my eyes. His brother bought a badass Harley and said my boyfriend could take me for a quick ride down the street. I had been on bikes before. But nothing this nice. Long story short. He just completely went for it and had us flying down an old country road with tons of rocks and pebbles and debris until we reached 100 miles per hour. It was fun as hell. But he had no business going that speed. Especially on that road. When we slowed down he was telling me how he almost lost control and had no idea what he was doing. No helmets. No real experience. No brains. Just plain stupidity on both our parts. It was a great ride and I felt like we were flying. But one small bump and we'd be toast. One day me and my cousin were going into a large camel pen to try to find some camels. We knew the owner of these camels and often fed them carrots or apples, but first, of course, we had to find them and lure them to the fence. I had done this once before and wasn't really concerned as my cousin had done it many times. I know that there were 2 camels who were friendly, Nelly and Jabu. The others were males which often were quite aggressive. Anyway, we managed to find Nelly and began taking her back to the fence. My cousin was in front of me with Nelly walking pretty much right behind him. He just got done saying how Nelly is gentle when suddenly she turned aggressive and bit him before trying to kick him to the ground. We both managed to get behind something and began making our way back to the fence slowly. I must say it was fun needing to avoid an aggressive camel while the herd is slowly approaching. But yeah, I don't fancy being killed by a camel. A horse now. I could deal with that. But not a camel. I once drank a bottle of just ridiculous homebrew, with magical properties, at uni. I was on cloud 9 for a few hours. Then I tripped major balls. When I woke up my hearing had gone and my sight was down to about 10%. My vision came back after about 2 days. My hearing 3. Snowboarding. I'm usually adventurous and not too unathletic. I took a lesson and then proceeded to slide down a mountain on my face for 6 hours. Not for me. But I'm glad that I gave it a shot. Edit. I get it. I would have tried longer. Only I was on a day trip. I'm also living in a warm climate hundreds of miles away from the nearest mountain. I'll have to put that second adventure off for a while. Sorry friends. Try it again. My first lesson was like that. Then the second day I went I fell down so much that I had to stay home from work the next day. But after the third time I could actually stay up and have a good time and now it's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, the learning curve for snowboarding is surprisingly very fast. 3 days of doing it and lessons. You should be good to go with most intermediate slopes. Kayaking in Alabama and the water levels were about 5-6x normal flow rate. We, being a group of 5 guys, decided to go down a non-normal trail that is usually woods. The water level was so high that we were essentially midway up the trees. Well, a non-normal trail means we literally went through several trees. This was all pretty fun until one of our friends got dumped into the water and his kayak wedged into the tree branches. He proceeds to dump me in the water while trying to hang onto my boat and chaos ensues as we go riding down the current barreling into trees with nothing but a helmet and life jacket on. It took us 2 hours to get back upstream and recover his kayak. The final casualty count was a pair of flip-flops, a Nerf football, a bag of Funans, and a paddle. In retrospect it was pretty fun. But in the moment, it was pretty terrifying. Salvia. FCK Salvia. Yes. Took one large rip. Held forever and it smashed my brain. The earth kept collapsing over and over onto me and I went berserk. Friends trying to hold me down and I was fighting them. Never ever ever again. Oh my god, that shit fucks everything up so badly. It's like that fun you can't stop laughing feeling but you actually can't and it's actually terrifying and now you're jumping up and down screaming and everything hurts because every muscle in your body is contracting and now you're on the ground and you just want it to be a week later than now but wait, it's only been 45 seconds. Because buckle up dumbers, you're in for the long haul now. Edit. The leaves are fine. The concentrate is nightmarish if you use the proper equipment. Lying down on the German autobahn in the middle of a summer night to feel rebellious. And how the paving is still warm from the day. Then a car comes. We just go to the side of the road. Because why would anybody care? It's a police car. We run and get away. Good times. But not doing that again. Edit. Spelling. Whitewater Rapids, West Virginia. Maybe I shouldn't have followed it up by a long trail ride on horseback. But my knees had never hated me more. The rafting was fun. And wild. Got thrown out. Choke down a mouthful of river water. But I don't need to do it again. Edit. New River Gorge. I can't recall which company we used. Bought a combo deal on Living Social. Common did them both the same day. I went in Colorado when the water temperature was just over freezing. Every single splash hurt the same way boiling water would. In Vegas. Me and some buddies paid an escort to jump on a bed with us. She was reluctant at first but said she enjoyed it after. Also said that's not what she expected to do when walking into a room with 4 guys. There are pictures out there somewhere. Going about 150 miles per hour in a car I had no business driving when I was 17. Jumping railroad tracks and almost getting myself killed in a truck. When I was 17. Going way too fast. About 90 miles per hour. Down a curvy mountain road after senior prom. When I was 17. That time when I was 17 and we thought it would be fun to sort of jump. Sort of wheelie. A 4-wheeler. There was also that time on the jet ski when I was 17 and I sort of drifted around a moving boat going as fast as I could go. I could go on. But age 17 was a very dumb year for me. It's a miracle I made it to adulthood. Had sex with one of my best friends. We were both drunk and had been dancing together at this party. Then came back to my room to smoke a cigarette because it was cold out. She then said, "Want to have sex?" I said, "Yeah. Sure," and she jumped on me. The sex was great and we both had a lot of fun. But we both agreed we shouldn't do it again because we didn't want to ruin our friendship and we definitely shouldn't tell any of our other friends. Bought a 21-foot sailboat with my best friend for way too cheap off Craigslist. When we took the boat to get registered, we decided to take it out on the nearby very large lake reservoir. This is before we had any type of motor and no knowledge of sailing. A few hours in the water we noticed a hole in the rear of the boat that we plugged up with molding clay. Ultimately, I drank an entire bottle of Bacardi and ended up having to check the hole once every hour during the night. The next day when we tried to sail back to the shore, we ended up getting pushed back across the lake, 2 states away. Finally got a tow from a local fisherman. When I was 20, I came home from a party really late one night, pretty drunk, and I got a text from a girl who said she was stuck at a bar downtown and her friends left her. So I stole my parents' car, drove 20 minutes to pick her up, another 20 minutes to bring her to her parents' house. FK'd her right there in the backseat of the car. As I watched the sunrise, drove home, went to bed, and my parents never found out. When I was maybe 12 or 13 I brought a blow-up mattress that would float and was hanging out at a beach with my family. I was looking up at the sky and before I knew it, I was in the middle of a lake and could barely see the shoreline. I didn't know how to swim, so I paddled myself with my hands all the way to the shoreline. Took about 2 hours because of how far I went. Grew up on a lake that would freeze over in Massachusetts. Kid on the other side of the lake would ride his ATV around said lake with us kids attached to the back on toboggans. Lots of crashing into snowbanks and careening across the lake. Super fun, but if that heavy ass ATV driven by a 10-year-old broke through we'd have been in trouble. My friends and I jumped off our town bridge. A good 4-story drop into the lake beneath. They, being the graceful swans that they were, dropped in like special forces. I on the other hand fell like a brick and belly flopped like a brick. The air was out of my lungs and I was floating down the river on my back whilst my friends laughed. It was a great time, but I haven't jumped off that bridge since. I have a bit of a thing for exhibitionism and I have a friend who has a thing for voyeurism. Naturally, I let the friend watch me give my boyfriend a BL job over video call. It was a fun experience and it was really interesting to be so nervous and excited I was shaking and to have that adrenaline rush feeling that I felt the first time I had sex. But the BF and I agreed it felt weird and often kinda cheapened the experience to share it with someone else, so we decided not to do that again. Dropped acid for the first time over summer at a good friend's house. It kicks in and I start seeing color swirls. The works. It's amazing. Halfway through my trip I had to take a shit. After I wipe for the first time, I check the toilet paper to see if it's clean. Too bad. All I can see is rainbow color swirls moving on the toilet paper. Can't tell if there's shit on it or not. So I end up panicking and wiping with half the roll to be safe. Thankfully they had double ply, so my arsehole didn't burn too much afterwards. The first time I had ever even heard of acid, I was a preteen skating around my town Central Park during the weekend of our big hippie festival. This guy comes out of the bathroom with clear fear in his eyes and is mumbling about something. I ask him if he's okay and he keeps staring off into the distance, and I ask him again and he snaps out of it. Looks at me with considerable intensity and says never take a shit on acid and walked away. That stuck with me for a while, so I always try to pop one out before I indulge. Gobbled down an entire weed brownie. The high probably lasted 3-5 hours, lost track of time. I've only smoked 3 times before, so my tolerance was pretty low, but bad idea anyways. My friend and I were just like brownie. Yum. We each ate our brownies in probably 10 seconds. First 20 minutes fine. We eat some pizza and waited. Then just F-king kicks in. More like a punch to the face actually. We start laughing non-stop for what felt like an hour. I'm rocking back and forth on the edge of the bed and I can't eat my pizza because I keep laughing. We would try to stop, but we laughed at our laughing. Finally, we stopped laughing and we had to lay down on my bed because our bodies felt so sluggish. My body felt like a neon pastel puddle of sludge. After laying on my bed for 1.1/2 hours, we were still really F-king high. Eventually we fell asleep, and when I woke up, through a sleepy haze, I see my friend puke into a takeout brown paper bag, thankfully still in a plastic bag, that was on the floor on her way out. When I woke up, I had to puke too, ended up clogging the sink. By that time, I wasn't that high anymore, but my hands were shaking. The next morning at school, my head still felt foggy heavy. Fun story to tell. Would do eat brownies again, but in timed increments instead. Me and some friends went and egged cars in high school. Yeah, I know. We were dumb assholes. Anyway, we were hiding out in an abandoned and finished neighborhood entrance in order to throw them and keep hidden in the dark since it had overgrown bushes and stuff to hide in. My friend decided to throw the very last one since he bought the eggs. As soon as it left his fingers he just yelled oh shit. He said he saw the brush guard on the front and realized it was a cop car. We heard it hit the car and bolted. Never wanted to egg cars again. Back in my youth I was with a girl that was totally a bad influence on me. She roped me into using my man body to break into an abandoned house to have a house party. We smashed our way in, climbed through and started casing the joint. As I was upstairs, I noticed 2 police cars pulled up. I was the only one in the house. I assumed the girls had ran off or hid. I was alone in an abandoned house. Police were coming quick. 2 officers stayed outside. 2 came into the building. I quickly opened the window and, without even thinking, slid down the drain pipe into a sort of side garden area. The garden was totally overgrown like savanna grass. So I went all F-king liners on that shit and stealthed my way through the grass. On the other side of the garden was a gate that led to an alleyway which I knew would be my escape. I crawled along the ground careful, got to the gate, opened it, and legged it. I've never, ever felt adrenaline or badassery like that before. I felt invincible. But yeah. Never again. I'd say pretty much my entire senior year of high school, 17 years old, my friends and I essentially made it our responsibility to be irresponsible little shits for an entire year. We stole a 25-pound box of peanuts from Five Guys, twice. We spent hours upon hours skating and spray painting, and committing countless other petty crimes. It was as if we were very well aware that youth was coming to a close and this was our last chance to act out before we knew better. Some of the stuff we did was downright dangerous. Jumping cars over train tracks. Hitting the speed cap of my crappy car. I'm glad I did all that stuff and came out unscathed. But today I'm not about to risk getting caught doing some dumb kid stuff. I have to seek my thrills in more conventional methods. Letting my friend's friend drive me through abandoned mining areas in coal country in a souped up dune buggy. I thought he'd just take me for a spin to show it off, but ended up doing a good 30 minutes jumping off mountainsides and through ravines and up damn near vertical walls. It's a miracle we didn't smash into a tree or flip it or fall down a mine shaft or something. It was exhilarating, but I never want to do that again. I took truffles in Amsterdam. We bought the ones with the highest trip rating. First few hours were great. We took loads of jam from the hostel canteen up to our room and it tasted great. Your tongue sort of came away with it when you took your finger out of your mouth and you could sort of write your name in the air with it. All the graffiti followed us down the street and a urinal divider wall had had enough and skulked off out of the door whilst I was in the toilets. Then everything went a bit weird because one of our group thought it would be funny to hide behind a wall and whisper stuff to freak everyone out. One of the other guys in my room took his clothes off and rocked around on the floor holding his legs over his head saying he was a plastic wrapped turkey. I spent the rest of the night in a friend's room eating cashew nuts and feeling a bit upset. Was definitely worth it for the first 4 hours, and I'm sure if it wasn't for the guy whispering everyone would have been fine. Don't plan to do it again though, as I still remember the guy with his legs over his head and it makes me shudder every time.